Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Mike here at Game From Scratch, and LWJGL 3.3 was just released today, and while there's not a ton in that release, we'll get back to that in a minute, I figured now is a good time to bring up LWJGL again. This is actually a very important library in the Java ecosystem, and if you've used Minecraft Java, well, it used LWJGL. If you used a game engine in Java, it's probably using LWJGL behind the scenes. So what exactly is LWJGL? A lightweight Java game library, and it's actually basically bindings over top of everything that matters in the world of game development, as we will see in a second. If you want to check it out, lwjgl.org is the place to be. And you're going to see right here in terms of what it is, enables cross-platform access to popular native APIs used in development of graphics, audio, and parallel computing. Access is direct and high performance, yet wrapped in a type-safe and user-friendly layer appropriately for the Java ecosystem. Is an enabling technology, provides low-level access. It is not a framework and does not provide higher-level utilities than what the native libraries expose. So basically, it is bindings, but it is bindings to everything. So you see low-level bindings to OpenGL, OpenCL, OpenAL, GLFW. Also, Vulkan is in there as well. It is cross-platform, works on Windows, Mac, and Linux, and I think various mobile platforms as well. It is open source under the BSD license. It is well documented. There are GLFW bindings available as well, OpenAL bindings available, OpenCL, OpenGL, OpenGL ES, OpenEGL, Objective-C, Oculus, libVR, and so on and so forth. Plus, there are a number of other APIs supported in here. It's got bindings for things like ASIMP, BGL, and so on and so forth. So it's if you want to use Java for high-performance computing in some form, you're probably going to use LWJGL because it makes all of these glue things, Vulkan, OpenAL, OpenGL, and so on and so forth, available to Java programmers. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, if you used a Java game engine, there's a pretty good chance LWJGL is what they used behind the scenes. For example, both LibGDX, which I still love to this day and is one of the things that actually started this channel off as a YouTube channel, and the JMonkey engine, 3D Java-based game engine for Java, they both use LWJGL for their low-level components. So it is definitely an important library in the Mac ecosystem. In terms of the source code, it is available open source. Again, it's got bindings for all those various different technologies available in it as well. You can see here it is under the BSD 3 clause. Cool thing is there are Kotlin bindings available as well, or you can use it with Kotlin. Kotlin is pretty interchangeable with Java, but you can see actually there's some Kotlin being incorporated directly into this guy right there. It's a really cool framework. LWJGL requires Java 8 or later to build and run, and it runs on Linux, Linux ARM, ARM32, Mac, Windows, and Windows x86. Now, we can add a couple of more ARMs to it because that is part of the release that we just saw today. If you want to see what it's about, so you can see here, there are examples for all of the various different technologies that are built into it. Now, I'm not going to show you a Vulkan example because it'll be 6 years long, but let's say incorporating bgfx. So you can see what the source code looks like when you are working with an LWJGL class. The nice thing is Java has always been a pretty readable, maybe sometimes a little bit verbose, but what it's not a high-level framework, once again. This is for interfacing these underlying technologies such as bgfx. And again, you've got examples here for GLFW, OpenCL, OpenGL, OpenAL, OpenVR, OVR, and so on and so forth. So whatever it is you are looking to get into, there are samples here. And I'm just curious, how big is a Hello Vulkan sample? All right, 2,000 lines of code. Yeah, that's Vulkan for you, which is also why the SDL libraries, that mystery announcement, it's actually about making 3D accessible, which, by the way, so unrelated news, but kind of interesting. So as you can see, it doesn't handle the low-level stuff for you. It is just a binding layer. So if you want to put a hello world triangle up on screen, you got to write the same 2,000 lines of code that everyone else does when they're dealing with Vulkan. Anyways, that is an example that's out there. In terms of what's actually in the 3.3 release, well, as I mentioned earlier on, probably the big things there are the new platform support, but also they added libFFI bindings. It's the portable function, foreign function interface library, a way of calling foreign code, Spur vcross, and meshoptimizer. Meshoptimizer is quite cool. It's a way of basically rendering to tessellate down triangles automatically. So I think I've covered this guy in the past, but there are bindings for that now. Improvements to the GLFW bindings and all the various different other bindings they've got going on. But the key thing here is, again, probably these two right here. is macOS and Windows both now have ARM support. That means if you've got a snazzy new MacBook M1, or you're one of like the 8 people alive that owns a Surface Pro, there is now LWJGL support for those 2 platforms, in addition to the Linux ARM support that was already mentioned earlier on. And then a bunch of improvements to it across the board. And then we got a number of fixes and a couple of breaking changes in there as well. So again, probably the big things here are, so a lot of it's just incremental updates to all the various different bindings that they support. The libFFI, meshoptimizer bindings, and spurv bindings are all new. A couple of version bump updates for the stuff they work with. And then of course the 2 new platforms being added, being the 2 ARM platforms for both Windows and Mac OS. So MacBook users, hey, celebrate. And Surface Pro user, hey, you're covered here too. So anyways, that is LWJGL. Again, it's one of those kind of unsung heroes out there. Java bindings are never really fun to write and maintain and work with. And quite frankly, if you want to do things in a high performance way, you're going to be interfacing with a lot of C code. And that's what LWJGL kind of takes care of for you. So if you want to stick to, you know, the Java side of the equation, but you want to have access to all those various different media frameworks and libraries and everything else that's out there, LWJGL is the thing you need. And again, if you want to get started with it, it is available at lwjgl.org. It is an open source project. It is well documented. By the way, if you don't want to work at this low of the level, as we mentioned earlier on, both the libgdx framework and the JMonkey engine use LWJGL, which again, so did Minecraft Java Edition. But if you want to work at a slightly higher level, these are Java-based game engines that work on top of LWJGL. This would be more for you writing your own game engine using Java, or your own game where you don't quite need an engine level, but for some reason you don't want to use libgdx. That's what LWJGL is all about. So that is it. 3.3 release of LWJGL was today. Congratulations on the release. Let me know what you think of this, and let me know if you have a Surface Pro ARM computer, because I'd love to meet you. All right, that's it. I will talk to you all later. Goodbye.